Welcome back. The Federal Communications Commission is fining a political consultant $6 million, this over fake robocalls. The calls mimic President Biden's voice, and the fake voice told New Hampshire voters not to vote in the state's Democratic primary. The FCC says the calls were generated using an AI-generated audio recording. Stephen Kramer was indicted in New Hampshire for these calls. Kramer is a Louisiana Democratic political consultant, and he worked for Biden's primary challenger, Representative Dean Phillips, in the past. Phillips has denounced these calls, and the commission says Kramer will need to pay the fine within 30 days. It says the matter will be sent to the Justice Department for collection if he doesn't pay.
Vice presidential nominees Governor Tim Walz and Senator J.D. Vance will be facing off in a debate next week. NTD's national correspondent Jason Blair brings us the latest and why this VP debate could bring in more viewers than in previous election cycles.
The Democratic and Republican vice presidential nominees will square off in their first debate next Tuesday. This will perhaps be their biggest chance to let voters get to know them better, as well as make their case for their respective campaigns and running mates. The debate will be hosted by CBS News at its New York studios. The rules are reportedly still under negotiation. In the past, vice presidential debates usually didn't generate a whole lot of buzz when compared to their presidential counterparts. However, this year's debate looks like it has a chance to gain a lot of viewers, as the VP candidates have been gaining more attention than in previous elections. Also, due to the lack of debates in general with the 2024 elections, it could be easier to cast a spotlight on the VP clash. The most watched vice presidential debate was in 2008 between Joe Biden, who was a Delaware senator at the time, and Sarah Palin, who was the governor of Alaska. As far as how each candidate is preparing, neither campaign has confirmed any specifics. There have been some unconfirmed reports from outlets involving anonymous sources, however, nothing concrete. Both candidates are, however, still keeping active on the campaign trail. Governor Tim Walz will be campaigning in Michigan on Saturday. Senator J.D. Vance has a rally scheduled in Pennsylvania, also on Saturday. Walz and Vance have not met in person yet, but have exchanged public jabs while campaigning. There hasn't been a second debate confirmed for either the vice presidential or presidential nominees, so this could very well be the last debate before the November 5th election. The debate is scheduled for 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, October 1st. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Next Tuesday, this vice presidential debate will be right here in New York City. NTD will have on-the-ground coverage, in-depth analysis, and a lot more prepared for you during both our pre- and post-debate show on The Nation Decides 2024, presented by our very own Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer. Make sure to watch it next Tuesday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. Lawmakers on the House Intelligence Committee zeroing in on one of America's most popular shopping apps, Temu. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has that report.
Congressmen, including the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, requested a briefing from the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission on Wednesday, following a New York Post report saying Temu's parent company is allegedly led by former officials from the Chinese Communist Party. Lawmakers said they are concerned about data on American users. Temu's parent company is called PDD Holdings, an online retailer based in China. It's also listed on the NASDAQ. The Post reports that a dozen of the company's top leadership are former CCP officials. For example, one of its vice presidents is a former official from China's State Administration for Market Regulation. Another VP, a former official from the Shanghai Administration for Industry and Commerce. Two legal directors were former judges in Shanghai. States have also sounded the alarm over Temu. Arkansas sued Temu and its Chinese parent company in June. The state's attorney general alleged that Temu is malware disguised as an e-commerce platform. The lawsuit said the app is designed to gain unfettered access to a user's phone by overriding data privacy settings. As for what kinds of data it collects, fingerprints, location data, text messages, contacts, camera access, and documents. The lawsuit accuses Temu of selling this data to third parties to make money. Temu denies the allegations, saying they are totally unfounded. Despite that, Temu remains in hot water. Congress is investigating the app over data security concerns, while the state of Montana banned both Temu and Chinese-owned TikTok from government devices, citing threats to user security. Last year, Apple suspended Temu from the Apple App Store for misrepresenting the type of user data it's capable of collecting. Apple later lifted the restriction. Google suspended parent company PDD's app in the same year because it contained malware.
Family harmony can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world, but maintaining strong connections is key. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with Dr. Lauren Cook about how to navigate these challenges and more.
Dr. Lauren Cook says when a conflict breaks out, it's important to have those tough conversations face-to-face.
There's some really interesting research that just came out actually about oxytocin, which is one of the biggest ways that we bond in our families. And what they found in that study is that it's not just physical touch, but even the sound of each other's voices. Now, interestingly, when we communicate purely digitally, whether it's text or email, oxytocin, that bonding chemical, is not released.
Being curious is important to lend support when a family member is struggling.
It can be really easy for us to make assumptions or jump to conclusions, but instead we want to ask those open-ended questions. Tell me some more. I want to better understand that. Can you explain that to me in more detail? And then we start expanding the conversation. So the more we can ask those open-ended questions, the better. And we want to be a safe person for our families, right? So really making sure our family members know, hey, I'm always here for you.
Cook says a recent Surgeon General report states parents are working more hours than they were back in the 80s and spending more time and money on childcare.
One of the things that came out of that is that we need to help each other more. One, we need to ask for help. So as parents, we can't be shy about saying, hey, I need a hand. Please give me some support. And for folks who aren't parents or who maybe aren't quite in that season of active parenthood, really proactively reaching out and asking, hey, what can I do to help you? Can I bring you a meal? You know, things like that to really give parents support.
Positive reinforcement, according to Cook, is key. The psychologist says people need about 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction.
I'm a big fan of Dr. Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages and making sure we are loving our family members in the way that they like to be loved, not just in how we like to be loved. So, you know, some family members, they may love getting that card with the kind words, and other family members may say, oh, that's too mushy-gushy for me, right? You've got to know what really warms your family members' hearts and follow their lead.
Teaching kids that they are an equal part of the household and not the center of it is essential.
We want to start teaching our kids that helping is a really wonderful way to love other people rather than seeing it as a burden or as a tax on our families. And so really seeing and teaching them, they get joy when they help other people, when they're making a contribution. So it's really reframing it rather than seeing it as a chore or a burden. It's as a way to love our family members and really be a helping member there.
Dr. Lauren Cook is the author of a recently published book, Generation Anxiety, that names why people are feeling more anxious than ever and what they can do about it. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Up next, New York City Mayor Eric Adams appears in court today and pleads not guilty. We talked to a former New York Assistant District Attorney. Hear what he has to say about the case after this break.
They fill in for the president when they're called upon.
We need a leader who fights for the people who built this country.
A debate between candidates for second in command.
Let's chart that new way forward. Let's do it because we believe in the promise of America.
Watch our live pre- and post-debate coverage of the vice presidential debate with Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides. Tuesday, October 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern on NTD News.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now. 800-494-1562.
A painting that has true beauty. I imagine it's like a door. The artist holds the key to open the door and bring people to a purer world. A world where people are more compassionate.
Thanks for staying with us. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is facing very serious federal charges related to bribery and campaign finance violations. NTD's Jason Perry is live outside the courthouse with the latest details. Hi, Jason. What can you tell us?
I'm here right outside of the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where New York City Mayor Eric Adams has pleaded not guilty to the charges brought against him. He's currently being charged with bribery, fraud, and illegally soliciting campaign contributions from a foreign national. Federal prosecutors have accused him of funneling money from Turkish sources in his 2021 mayoral campaign and for pressuring city officials to allow Turkey's new consulate to open, even though it would have failed a fire inspection. The charges date back to 2014 when Adams was Brooklyn Borough president. Adams' lawyer, Alex Spiro, said this after leaving the courthouse.
This case isn't even a real case. This is the airline upgrade corruption case. The third thing we said is that we demand that they bring exculpatory information and the discovery to court on Wednesday. As you know from looking at the indictment and from what happened in court, there are no emails, text messages, or any corroboration whatsoever that the mayor knew about anything having to do with these campaign donations. The entire body of evidence is one staffer that says there was a conversation. What you have not learned is that that staffer has lied, and the government is in possession of that lie.
Adams is the first of 110 New York City mayors to face criminal charges while in office. And Adams said he plans to continue his duties as mayor of New York City. However, if he's found guilty, he could face decades in prison. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said she's reviewing her options and obligations, but she stopped short of calling for Adams to resign. Adams' lawyer said he plans to file a motion to dismiss the charges next week. Back to you in the studio.
Joining us now to discuss the indictment and Adams' not guilty plea is A. Scott Bolden Bolden is a criminal defense attorney and a former New York assistant district attorney. To jump right in, Adams has pleaded not guilty. How do you see this playing out now?
Well, he's going to be in court in a couple more days for a case management conference. He can waive that appearance. The judge could waive that appearance. And then the nuts and bolts of the defense and the prosecution working together, sharing information, sharing discovery. Importantly, the prosecution has to share all exculpatory information. And in the clip that you've shown as the lead-in, that witness who Alex Sparrow, as criminal defense lawyer, says has lied, they would have to disclose that to the defense as well. There's going to be a motion to dismiss filed by the defense. That'll be really interesting because most of those defense motions are denied this early in the case. But if they've got a lot to work with, the judge may give it full weight and perhaps dismiss it or not dismiss it. We'll have to see. It'll be completely up to the discretion of the judge.
Interesting in regards to the motion to dismiss, Scott. In terms of how tight the case seems by the DOJ, what do you think?
Listen, I've represented a lot of mayors around this country, 3 of the last 5 mayors in D.C. alone. And I got to tell you, and I'm a Democratic fundraiser, this is, as the New York Times says, kind of small potatoes. The idea that the Turkish individuals, whether they were American citizens and they were bundling or giving contributions or using straw people to make contributions to the mayor, then certainly the mayor would have to have knowledge and the government would have to show that he had knowledge of that. Most politicians don't know that at all. In regard to the most serious charge, bribery, you've got to listen, you got to really focus on what official act did the mayor do. I would submit to you that the official act here, I can't find in the indictment, because calling the fire marshal and saying, listen, we got to get the church embassy open by such and such a date, doesn't mean you want him to do something against the law. It means you want him to work with the Turkish officials to make sure that building meets all fire code and expedite it. Every mayor I've ever represented would make that call to see if they could get it expedited, because the city bureaucracy can be pretty slow. So I hope the government, the federal government, has a lot more than just that allegation. We'll have to see.
Yes, in terms of those holes and weaknesses that you're already starting to see, what do you think Adams' legal strategy will be?
Well, it'll be one, they can't connote or denote that I had knowledge of these straw donors, if you will. I don't care whether they got emails saying figure out a way to raise money with our Turkish friends. That's not illegal. Figure out a way to do it. If you figure out a way to do it legally, so be it. If you don't figure out a way to legally do it, then tell me so. So I don't think that's an indicting text or email. But, you know, it's always the cover-up that get our elected officials, whether it's Nixon or whether it's the current mayor of New York. They seem to have a lot of evidence on bad acts vis-a-vis trying to cover up. But it's not illegal to not cooperate with an investigation. It's not illegal to say, give me the password to your phone and not give it to the feds. He's got a First Amendment. He's got a Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. So, you know, it's a 57-page indictment. It basically is a circumstantial case, and the government's going to have to put it to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This will be a jury of their peers, and we'll have to see how strong the government's case is, how strong the defense is here, because I see a lot of strong defenses, and then it'll be up to the jury.
Indeed, you mentioned the indictment, and Adams is claiming that he has been unfairly targeted, yet the alleged evidence seems very specific and well documented, even if you mentioned there are some holes in it. Both of these can't be true at the same time, can they? What do you make of it?
They can't, but either it's an illegal act or an illegal act, and the facts have to support the illegality of it. It can be, you know, the defense can say the same thing the government's saying. One is that the evidence is strong, and the defense can say it's not so strong. That's why we have due process. The witnesses will be cross-examined. The documentary evidence will be challenged in court. There'll be a lot of judicial rulings that could shape this case. And so as a result, this is the best criminal justice system in the world. It gives the defense every opportunity. And, you know, the defendant doesn't have to say a word. He doesn't have to testify. The government has to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a high and heavy burden here. And given the circumstantial nature of the evidence, I mean, the defendant in this case, the mayor, is going to say, I had no knowledge of these straw donors, one. And two, I would have called the fire chief no matter what for any constituent because they wanted me to expedite it, and they're supporters of mine. Yes, they wrote me checks, but I got to tell you, I've written a lot of checks to politicians, and if I need something expedited, I'll be honest with you, I'm calling that office to see whether I can get some consideration or even heightened consideration, because I'll be honest with you, that's why I gave him the money. I want to be supportive, and I want that mayor to support me. I mean, like I said, I've represented a lot of mayors. There's not one mayor I've represented, from Marion Barry to Tony Williams in D.C., that would not have made that call legally, not illegally. Who wants a building opened up if it doesn't pass fire inspection? That's unsafe for everyone. I'm making some of the defense arguments on your show right now. Forgive me.
Scott, yeah, obviously relationships matter, of course, and I appreciate you bringing that up. As we zoom away from the procedural aspects of the case and start to look at the broader picture, Adams is one of the leading Democratic faces in the country. What has been the reaction in Democratic circles to the indictment?
Well, many New York Democrats have called for his resignation. Others have held their fire. The most important Democrat in all of this is the governor of New York, who's a Democrat. Is she going to ask or remove the mayor from office based on these allegations? It's an election year. He's running for re-election. He's got primary opponents. I doubt she would put her thumb on the scale like that, no matter what, just based on these allegations. The federal indictment, and the feds always have a big splash when they go after a popular politician or any politician. But the devil's in the details. And like I said, they've got a high and heavy burden. So don't look for the governor to remove him. Now, there's a city council process and a committee that could remove him based on his inappropriate conduct. That's a little messy, and that's complicated, and it's an election year. And remember, this is a Democratic stronghold. So look for the Democrats not so much to harm or tarnish the mayor, but also their chances in this presidential election. So lots of moving parts here. We'll have to watch and see what the political theater delivers.
Indeed, a lot of political drama here. In terms of Adams' legal fees, how is that covered? Does the city pay it? Does he have to raise money from his supporters? How does that work?
He's raising money from his supporters through a mechanism of creating a legal defense fund. At last count, the last report, he had raised about $650,000. Alex Spiro and Quinn Emanuel, who are the lawyers on defending him, are not inexpensive by any means. They certainly could cut their rates if they wanted to in order to make that financially work for the mayor. But he's got a criminal defense fund. It's legal. It's set up under New York law, and his supporters will continue to raise money. Those people who donate or contribute, that's disclosable to the public through a public reporting process. And so he's got the funds to do it. It's going to take more than $650,000, though. I would imagine it's going to cost him a couple million or more to really do a thorough defense, to really fight these charges, because his liberty and basically his life, his political life, is at stake. So you want a perfect defense, and you want a perfect team defending you. And if he can raise the money, he can have that in our criminal justice system.
Indeed, his story is one of the most interesting in the country when it comes to politics as a retired police officer turned politician. So I'm sure that he'll be able to garner support. In terms of how this case compares to other corruption cases, such as the recent Senator Bob Menendez case, can you comment?
Well, the official act in bribery, Governor McConnell in Virginia about 10 years ago, his conviction was overturned because the Supreme Court said him calling his cabinet members, him even advocating for the use of a particular drug that one of the bad actors wanted him to promote within his administration was not an official act, that he would have done that for any constituent. And the Supreme Court rejected that as an argument and rejected the government's position on that. Here, I can't find the official act within the indictment. There are a lot of facts, embarrassing facts, but is it criminal? Does it violate the law? And that's really what you're looking at. calling the fire chief to try to get him to expedite the opening of a building or passing a fire inspection, that's not an official act of the mayor. That's him supporting his constituents. So that's one thing. Does he have knowledge of the straw donors? Did he use his phone to connote or denote getting money, his knowledge of these straw donors from foreign individuals or others? That's going to have to be high and tight because most elected officials, as I said before, don't really know where their donors come from. You can give a politician $1,000 and you can walk right by him and he won't really know who you are. It's just that it doesn't reach that level unless you're giving him a lot of money or you're spending a lot of time with local or federal elected officials. And so those are the key points to look at. With Menendez was chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. I mean, he was blocking contracts. He was holding up arms to Egypt on behalf of his constituents. Those get close to official acts, and that's why he was convicted on all counts.
These are keen insights. A. Scott Bolden, former New York Assistant District Attorney and Criminal Defense Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to some international news, former Japanese Defense Minister Shigeru Ishiba is elected as the next prime minister of the country. He'll be sworn into office next Tuesday after Prime Minister Kishida resigns. Ishiba was today elected to lead Japan's ruling party, the Liberal Democratic Party, which is also the majority party in their parliament. A Japanese politics professor says that he's not expecting major changes in terms of foreign policy. Take a look.
I think China will carefully assess the situation. I don't think it will immediately escalate to a significant level of alarm. I don't think there will be a significant change in Japan's foreign policy from the Kishida administration.
Now, Ishiba will soon have a lot on his plate after taking office as Japan's next prime minister. These include growing threats from China, uncertainties around what a new U.S. president could mean for bilateral relations, as well as deflation issues to address at home. Japan has seen rapidly rising tensions with China. In recent weeks, a Chinese warplane infringed on Japanese airspace, a Chinese carrier approached the country closer than ever, and a Japanese national was killed with a knife in China. Zooming out, Russia and China have held 2 naval drills over the past few weeks near Japan. China also launched a nuclear-capable missile into the Pacific Ocean this week. Despite these, Washington doesn't wish to provoke Beijing ahead of its November elections, and its key ally Tokyo is aware of this. Ishiba earlier told lawmakers after his win he will devote all his body and soul to making Japan a safe and secure country. He served as Japan's defense minister from 2007 to 2008.
U.S. defense officials say the Chinese regime tried to cover up losing one of its new nuclear-powered submarines. The defense officials told reporters the attack sub sank alongside a pier. They say it happened this spring. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has a breakdown of the sunken sub report.
The Chinese regime military's Zhou-class attack submarine that sank was one of the first of its class ever made. An unnamed U.S. official told reporters with CNN the attack sub was under construction at a shipyard near the city of Wuhan. The class has a distinctive stern meant to improve maneuverability. A satellite image taken by Maxar Technologies on March 10th shows the submarine docked at port, but images from June show the sub didn't return to the pier. A senior U.S. defense official told reporters it's not clear whether it was fueled when it sank. The Chinese Communist Party has one of the world's largest navies. A congressional report says the Chinese regime has roughly 230 warships, with the U.S. at about 220. The CCP has modernizing its navy and military as one of its highest priorities to try to keep up with the United States. A Pentagon report last year says the Chinese regime's military is operating 6 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. That's on top of 6 nuclear-powered attack submarines and 48 diesel-powered attack submarines. The U.S. Navy has 14 ballistic missile submarines and 4 guided missile submarines. The U.S. also has 53 fast attack submarines, all nuclear-powered as part of its fleet. A U.S. defense official says he thinks concealing the sunken sub raises deeper questions about the Chinese regime's internal accountability and oversight of its own defense industry long plagued by corruption. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And moving to waters around Alaska, a U.S. senior commander warned today that the U.S. Coast Guard has detected a, quote, uptick in military activities from China and Russia. The update comes from Vice Admiral Andrew Tongson, the U.S. Coast Guard's Pacific Area commander. He said the encounters to date have been very professional The U.S. and Russia share a maritime boundary line between Alaska and the Russian Far East, including the Bering Strait. Tiongson said the Chinese and Russian navies have been working together in that region, occasionally crossing into the U.S. exclusive economic zone. He said the U.S. is closely monitoring these foreign vessels over the past month. The U.S. military has strengthened its defense capabilities along the Alaska coast after seeing a series of Russian air activities and joint naval drills between Russia and China.
Coming up, British actress Maggie Smith, the professor in the beloved Harry Potter films, and the Dowager Countess in the widely acclaimed Downton Abbey, has died aged 89.
She's well remembered by her peers. We hear from some big names after the break.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Cool Video Awards are back for their second year. Record and nominate acts of kindness, both big and small, from individuals, families, and communities. Submit your videos on ganjingworld.com with the hashtag #KindnessIsCool. Win a $10,000 grand prize and be featured on a New York Times Square billboard. Visit ganjingworld.com and start sharing today. Kindness is cool.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
Thanks for staying with us. Some sad news now. Academy Award-winning actress Maggie Smith, she has passed away today. The Downton Abbey star was 89 years old.
We take a look at the actors, writers, and fans who adored her. Smith earned an Oscar and the British Academy Award for her role in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969.
The actress won the hearts of fans in the 21st century as the Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey and Professor Minerva McGonagall in the Harry Potter film series.
Smith's sons Chris Larkin and Toby Stevens said Smith passed away in a London hospital.
Smith was frequently considered one of the preeminent British actresses of a generation that included Vanessa Redgrave and Judi Dench.
She always gets the line absolutely right. And that is, you know, as you can imagine, very, very rewarding to write for, because you know you're putting a dart into the hands of someone who'll hit the bullseye every time.
The best intended at giving shade both on screen and off is Maggie Smith. You know, notorious MAGGIE, you know me.
She makes you want to be better than you are, really, because when you're up close and acting with her, she's the greatest actor I've ever worked with, unquestionably. It's phenomenal, you know, her armory.
Smith's other accolades include an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the 1978 comedy California Suite.
The actress was honored as a dame in 1990 after she was knighted by Queen Elizabeth. British twins are looking to enter the record books with the world's largest pumpkin. The Hampshire duo has been growing pumpkins for nearly 50 years, but will this year's crop see them crowned?
Nuts, isn't it? Nuts. It's nuts, yeah. We're trying to grow the biggest fruit to sit on this planet. What's not cool about that? It's all a bit nerve-wracking, really. It's years of work, loads of hours, lots of money. My missus would tell you, there's a Caribbean holiday here.
The brothers have 4 pumpkins growing for the challenge. They say their produce is increasing by an average of 30 kilograms. That's more than 60 pounds a day. Each pumpkin is expected to reach over 3,000 pounds, the weight of a small car. The world record right now is a 2,749-pound pumpkin. So good luck to Ian and Stuart, who look on to track to breaking that record.
Make a lot of pumpkin pies with all that pumpkin.
That's a lot of pumpkin.
All right, coming up, Meta faces a lawsuit accusing the company of copyright infringement. A judge rules that there's enough evidence for CEO Mark Zuckerberg to be deposed. That and more after this break.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Dave's Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Dave's enzyme fermented coffee.
Come to the Mathis Design Studio, the premier destination for designer furniture. See the latest trends from top brands with heirloom quality pieces for every room in your house. Whether you're redecorating a single room or furnishing an entire home, we have the styles you'll love. Plus, enjoy fast, complimentary delivery. Visit us now for exclusive discounts and let us help make your dream home a reality for less than you ever imagined at the Mathis Design Studio.
A painting that has true beauty. I imagine it's like a door. The artist holds the key to open the door and bring people to a purer world. A world where people are more compassionate.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car and we'll schedule a pickup time. And email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support Truth, Compassion and Hope, donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Carrie Dunst.
Vice President Kamala Harris is visiting the southern border today in Arizona.
After meeting with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy this morning, former President Trump is heading to Michigan, holding a town hall event in Warren.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams appears in court today. He pleads not guilty to taking bribes and illegal campaign contributions.
The Justice Department announcing criminal charges against 3 Iranian operatives. It's related to the hack of former President Trump's 2024 campaign.
Meta faces a lawsuit accusing the company of copyright infringement. A judge rules that there's enough evidence for CEO Mark Zuckerberg to be deposed.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu giving a long-anticipated speech before the UN today. Why he says that Israel is a blessing to the Middle East, while calling Iran a curse.
Hurricane Helene slammed into Florida's Gulf Coast Thursday as a powerful Category 4 storm. Life-threatening storm surges are still a threat. Mandatory evacuations are ordered for several counties, and millions across the southeast are facing power outages.
The world's most fascinating birds, captured by the world's most talented shutterbugs.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be making her first trip to the U.S.-Mexico border since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee.
She'll be making her case on an issue that polls indicate is her most challenging. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be speaking in the border town of Douglas, Arizona. According to a Harris-Walz campaign aide, Harris will talk about her plan to address the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border, including calling for more resources for Border Patrol agents and propose new machines that can detect fentanyl. With illegal U.S.-Mexico border crossings being at record levels the past few years, Kamala Harris's Republican counterpart had some things to say ahead of Harris's trip.
She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? Our country's never been under siege like this.
Harris will also likely highlight how she pushed for immigration legislation that would reform federal immigration policy that failed Congress after Trump openly opposed it. Harris is scheduled to speak around 7:45 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Former President Trump sharing his take on the Russia-Ukraine war after meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy this morning.
That's right. He's also campaigning across the battleground state of Michigan today as Vice President Harris is traveling to the border. Joining us now live is NTD's Iris Tao, who's at Trump's town hall tonight in Warren, Michigan. Iris, good afternoon. What are we hearing from the former president today?
Good afternoon to the both of you. So tonight at around 6 p.m., Trump will host a town hall right here in Warren, Michigan, and that's as he's traveling across the state for another event earlier this afternoon. And then same appeals to auto workers here in this important battleground state, as well as trying to block that path by Vice President Kamala Harris in what they call so-called blue wall states. I mean, while it comes as VP Harris released a new ad attacking Trump over his vow to bring auto jobs back to battleground states like Michigan and the U.S. in general. Harris saying that Trump's made empty promises to auto workers, saying how a trade deal that he signed with Mexico and Canada actually caused some jobs in the U.S. to be outsourced to foreign countries, which actually took away jobs from American workers. But Trump today is expected to continue to tout his work that he says he has done for the auto industry in the U.S. and vow to impose heavier tariffs on things, for example, as Chinese cars, to make sure that jobs as well as goods stay produced here right in the U.S. Meanwhile, as we're waiting for this speech to happen tonight and this earlier morning, Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at Trump Tower back in New York City. And the two talked about, of course, the end to the Ukraine war, how they could make it happen. And Trump, before the meeting, said that he has a good relationship with both Putin and Zelenskyy, and that he hopes to see a fair deal to this war's end. Watch.
We're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled and get it worked out. It has to end. At some point, it has to end. He's gone through hell, and this country has gone through hell like few countries have ever. Like it's happened anywhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's a terrible situation.
Everything that.
And after the meeting, Trump said that they learned a lot, adding that he doesn't think their standpoint had changed from a perspective that they both want to see this end and both want to see a fair deal made out of this war. And also asked about what his specific vision is for a fair deal. Trump said, though, that it's too early to say that, and quote, I have my own ideas and the president definitely has his own ideas. It has to be fair. Meanwhile, President Zelenskyy said after the meeting that Ukraine wants to count on the U.S. for this war to end no matter who wins the upcoming presidential election here in the U.S. And that is why he is meeting with both presidential candidates. Remember, yesterday he just met with both President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House before meeting Trump just this morning. So a lot to watch for as we're waiting for Trump to make that speech, of course, here tonight at the town hall. And he is starting to speak already at that other event in Michigan about inflation and trade. Back to you.
Thanks for that report, NTD's Iris Tao from Warren, Michigan.
The Justice Department unsealed criminal charges today against 3 Iranian nationals who have been accused of hacking Donald Trump's presidential campaign.
The DOJ says the operation also targeted government officials, the media, and non-governmental organizations.
Moments ago, the Justice Department unsealed an indictment charging 3 hackers working for the Iranian government with material support for terrorism, computer fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft for their roles in these cyber attacks.
The DOJ says that these accused hackers were members of Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Trump campaign disclosed on August 10th that someone hacked, stole, and distributed sensitive internal documents. U.S. intelligence officials subsequently linked Iran to the hack and to an attempted breach of the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris campaign as well.
The indictment comes at a time of heightened tensions between Washington and Tehran. Iran-backed Hezbollah and Israel continue to escalate attacks against each other, raising concerns about the prospect of an all-out war. Special counsel Jack Smith filed a sealed legal brief yesterday in his January 6th case against former President Trump. The brief responds to a Supreme Court ruling that Trump is protected by some presidential immunity. The U.S. District Court for D.C. had set a 5 p.m. deadline for the filing. The brief is expected to explain how the ruling impacts Trump's case. Judge Tanya Chutkin allowed Smith to submit up to 180 pages. Trump's legal team objected to the filing's timing and length, calling it unfair. But Judge Chutkin rejected those arguments. Trump's team will be able to respond to the prosecutor's brief with a filing due by October 17th.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is meeting the Chinese foreign minister in New York City.
Their meeting comes amid a clash on tariffs, Taiwan, and human rights. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
Secretary Blinken's meeting with Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, comes after a clash of ideology and policy between the two countries throughout the week. The top Chinese diplomat is in the U.S. for the United Nations General Assembly, and we can expect them both to speak on several issues, including China's military aggression in the South China Sea, the Chinese regime's human rights abuses that are ongoing, and the economy. Today, the U.S. has new tariffs going into effect on China. It's a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles and a 60% on solar panel parts and 25% on EV batteries, critical minerals, steel, aluminum, face masks, among other things. Tariffs are used by the Biden administration in part to discourage China's unfair business practices. The Chinese regime heavily subsidizes its industries so that it can flood the market with cheap products. Another issue likely to come up in the meeting is China's Belt and Road Initiative, which builds infrastructure projects in third world countries to gain global economic and military dominance. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has praised the Belt and Road Initiative, but the United States officials have condemned it for its high interest payments that leave many countries with billions in debt and Chinese military installations right in their backyards. Blinken met with the president of Kenya yesterday on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Kenya itself is working with the U.S. to develop infrastructure and deal with its debts, most of which are owed to China. The U.S. and China have been keeping in contact in recent months. The White House said that last month the Chinese leader Xi Jinping and President Biden are planning to have a phone call soon. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
North Carolina has removed more than 700,000 registered voters from its records. That's nearly 10% of all its voters. The State Board of Elections said yesterday the majority of these voters had moved to the state and did not register their new address, or they didn't vote in the last two federal elections, making their status inactive. The board said reasons for voters being removed also included because they had died, been convicted of felonies, moved out of state, or had requested their names were taken off. A few weeks ago, the state GOP and the Republican National Committee filed a lawsuit alleging voter fraud in North Carolina. It's a state that's quickly becoming an important battleground.
The Federal Communications Commission is fining a political consultant $6 million over fake robocalls. These calls mimic President Biden's voice, and the fake voice told New Hampshire voters not to vote in the state's Democratic primary. The FCC says the calls were generated using an AI-generated audio recording. Stephen Kramer was indicted in New Hampshire for these calls. Now, Kramer is a Louisiana Democratic political consultant, and he had worked for Biden's primary challenger, Representative Dean Phillips, in the past. Phillips has denounced these calls. The commission says Kramer will need to pay the fine within 30 days. It also says the matter will be sent to the Justice Department for collection if he doesn't pay. Coming up, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu giving a highly anticipated speech before the United Nations today, why he says that Israel is a blessing to the Middle East while calling Iran's terrorism a curse.
A cover-up now exposed. U.S. officials say the Chinese regime tried to hide losing one of its new nuclear-powered submarines. That and more after this break.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
Thanks for staying with us. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu holding a long-anticipated speech before the United Nations today.
That as Israel says it struck the Hezbollah headquarters in the capital city of Lebanon. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the Israel update.
Loud rounds of applause from some delegates, but also groups of delegates leaving in protest as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the United Nations on Friday. Netanyahu says he decided to speak at the gathering when he saw that leaders from other nations allegedly spread lies about Israel at the UN meeting.
And here's the truth. Israel seeks peace. Israel yearns for peace. Israel has made peace and will make peace again.
To illustrate his point, Netanyahu held up two maps of the Middle East. The first one was titled The Blessing, showing Israel and its allies connecting Europe to Asia.
Across this bridge, we will lay rail lines, energy pipelines, fiber optic cables, and this will serve the betterment of 2 billion people. Look at the second map. It's a map of a curse. It's a map of an arc of terror that Iran has created and imposed from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean.
He added that Iran has cut off trade, destroyed nations from within, and inflicted misery on millions of people. Meanwhile, in Lebanon on Friday, Israel says it attacked the headquarters of Hezbollah in the nation's capital. According to Israel, Hezbollah intentionally located the headquarters under residential buildings, using Lebanese people as human shields, but that Israel now took the step to strike it.
After almost a year of Israel warning the world and telling them that Hezbollah must be stopped, Israel is doing what every sovereign state in the world would do if they had a terror organization that seeks their destruction on their border.
Because of the increase in fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, the United Nations Refugee Agency says over 30,000 people have left Lebanon for neighboring Syria over just the last 72 hours.
Now, these, of course, are people who are fleeing bombs and who are crossing into a country that has been suffering from its own crisis and violence for 13 years now.
He added that around 80% of the people living in Lebanon are Syrians returning to their home country. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
Still staying on the topic of the Middle East, earlier this month, Hezbollah was hit with a two-day wave of exploding handheld devices. Pagers that exploded on the first day bore the logo of a Taiwanese brand, but that company claimed that they were manufactured by another company in Hungary. The walkie-talkies that exploded on the second day bore a Japanese company's brand, but that company then claimed that they had stopped producing this specific model of walkie-talkie a decade ago. Now, this raises serious concerns about the integrity of global supply chains. We're joined now by Lisa Anderson, a supply chain expert and president of LMA Consulting Group, Inc., to discuss this further. Good afternoon, Lisa. Now, I want to start with this. Norwegian authorities are now looking for a man who allegedly founded a Bulgarian company that was reportedly part of this pager supply chain. He's gone missing now after a trip to the U.S., and authorities are looking for him. So it seems like these explosions in Lebanon just keep revealing a messier and messier global supply chain. How do you see this impacting the future of international trade?
Yeah, it's highlighted the extreme vulnerabilities of the global supply chain. And you really have to be careful about your end-to-end supply chain. It's not enough just to look at the first tier supplier. You have to be looking at the entire supply chain. And it just highlighted the need and the risks associated in the global supply chain.
Now, Lisa, you've mentioned before that companies need to shift from a reactive to a proactive set of strategies when it comes to protecting their supply chains. How can they do that?
Well, there's several ways. You can start with some of the basics, like make sure that you have backup suppliers that are in more than just name only. We need to be diversifying our supply chain so that we have more. Really, we need to take control over our supply chain is the bottom line. We can't afford to have players in our end-to-end supply chain that we don't know what they're doing and what could happen to our products, because we're ultimately responsible. So we're going to have to take better control of our supply chain, partnering with suppliers and formalizing agreements, perhaps like strategic alliances, joint ventures, and really the key thing is that we're going to need to reshore and bring manufacturing to locations that we can control is really the bottom line. Whether that's like, for example, if we're in the U.S., so we bring it back to the U.S., or we may bring it near shoring to somewhere like Mexico. But we still have to make sure that we know everyone that's in the supply chain and what they're doing.
And yeah, as you mentioned there, this really important stuff would be reshoring or bringing manufacturing back. So we do see so much manufacturing is overseas right now in countries such as China, which clearly don't have the U.S.'s best interest in mind. Now, we've seen Congress address some of these concerns already with bills such as the Routers Act, but what more needs to be done, Lisa?
Well, to your point, there is a lot that needs to be done. We have to build our manufacturing capacity. We have high skilled talent. The good news about the U.S. is that we have a history of manufacturing dominance. We've been offshoring for many years, but we have a lot of the skills available. So we really need to ramp up our manufacturing capabilities. We need to be quickly doing supply chain assessments and making sure that we can get through the short-term period, the interim period, and that we take control and we meet with our suppliers and we know what's happening in our supply chain. And then longer term, which really should be medium term or short term if we can do it, we need to be looking at reshoring, building manufacturing capacity, sourcing suppliers that we know who they are. And when I say control, I don't mean it literally, although vertical integration is another strategy that's being pursued by manufacturers today.
Now, Lisa, I'm curious, are these big companies that are working and trading in these really important products and resources, are they aware of this problem? Are they showing any concern or action to prevent this type of problem right now?
Well, the answer is yes and no, but I would say that these vulnerabilities did arise during the pandemic. Folks realized that they were having a harder time getting products, but they didn't necessarily think through the risks associated with having so many players and players that we don't really know who they are. And they might just be a supplier of a supplier, but they can bring the whole supply chain down. So there is a heightened awareness since the pandemic, but it's, like maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a 3. And now we really have shot up to being more like a 8, 9, or 10. We should be at a level 10 of concern. And so I would say that companies are starting to pursue this and they are starting to reshore, but it's nowhere near fast enough. We need to be taking quick action.
So you say a level 10 concern. Is that how concerned you are about this right now?
I am, because our supply chains we are so dependent on players we don't even know who they are. Many companies do not have a complete map of who all their suppliers are and what they supply. Like, obviously, if they supply something that's not concerning, there's less risk. But there's just so many unknowns. So it's a very high concern, and it's not something you snap your fingers and fix. So we need to have a short term and a medium term and a long term strategy that we do immediately.
Now, Lisa, we've been talking about government, we've been talking about these big international companies, but let's narrow it down to the everyday American consumer. Should they be at all concerned about this?
Well, I mean, I would say that so long as companies take action, they can quickly do an assessment of their supply chain. They can identify these types of risks. I mean, it's obviously a terrible thing that this happened, but it has highlighted the issues so that we can get in front of it. And if we do a quick assessment, then they can curtail significant risk so that in the, while they're resolving the, their supply chain for the future. So I would say no, don't worry about it. But yes, encourage the government to take the appropriate actions and to protect the supply chain, and encourage your companies and your local businesses to take action. So you are going to have to be concerned about who you're buying things from if they aren't taking action.
Very good advice there, Lisa. So much happening on the international stage right now. Let's hope that the government and these big companies do what it takes to have the necessary precautions. Lisa Anderson, supply chain expert, thank you.
Thank you.
Over in Alaska, a U.S. senior commander warned today that the U.S. Coast Guard has detected, quote, an uptick in military activities from China and Russia. The update comes from Vice Admiral Andrew Tongsong, the U.S. Coast Guard Pacific Area Commander. He said the encounters to date have been very professional. The U.S. and Russia share a maritime boundary line between Alaska and the Russian Far East, including the Bering Strait. Tongsong said the Chinese and Russian navies have been working together in that region, occasionally crossing into the U.S. exclusive economic zone. He said the U.S. is closely monitoring these foreign vessels over the past month. The U.S. military has strengthened its defense capabilities along the Alaskan coastline after seeing a series of Russian air activities and joint naval drills between Russia and China. U.S. defense officials say the Chinese regime tried to cover up losing one of its new nuclear-powered submarines. The defense officials told reporters the attack sub sank alongside a pier. They say it happened this spring. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has a breakdown of the sunken sub reports.
The Chinese regime military's Zhou-class attack submarine that sank was one of the first of its class ever made. An unnamed U.S. official told reporters with CNN the attack sub was under construction at a shipyard near the city of Wuhan. The class has a distinctive stern meant to improve maneuverability. A satellite image taken by Maxar Technologies on March 10th shows the submarine docked at port, but images from June show the sub didn't return to the pier. A senior U.S. defense official told reporters it's not clear whether it was fueled when it sank. The Chinese Communist Party has one of the world's largest navies. A congressional report says the Chinese regime has roughly 230 warships, with the U.S. at about 220. The CCP has modernizing its navy and military as one of its highest priorities to try to keep up with the United States. A Pentagon report last year says the Chinese regime's military is operating 6 nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. That's on top of 6 nuclear-powered attack submarines and 48 diesel-powered attack submarines. The U.S. Navy has 14 ballistic missile submarines and 4 guided missile submarines. The U.S. also has 53 fast attack submarines, all nuclear-powered as part of its fleet. A U.S. defense official says he thinks concealing the sunken sub raises deeper questions about the Chinese regime's internal accountability and oversight of its own defense industry long plagued by corruption. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The Chinese Communist Party is playing a hidden role in British universities with campuses in China. That, according to a new report seeking to shed light on the CCP's malign influence, it calls for the UK government to strengthen free speech and whistleblower protections against the threat of authoritarian states. More from NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson.
A new report says that every British university with an outpost in China has a Chinese Communist Party branch within it. It says these are mandatory and run a shadow governance structure with significant influence over how the institute operates. The report, published by the China Strategic Risks Institute, investigated 45 joint educational institutes, or JEIs, established by British universities in China. These campuses in China allow universities to boost their international profile, as well as to tap into China's vast higher education market. But the report said some universities are either unaware or unwilling to admit the full extent of the CCP's role on their campuses. There have been concerns that this influence impacts academic freedom, with an academic removed from his post in 2018 after criticizing the CCP. The report comes soon after the new UK government decided to pause the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act. The act would have forced universities to actively promote freedom of expression on their China campuses. The British newspaper The Telegraph previously reported that university leaders pressured the government to drop the act to protect their financial partnerships with China. NTD reached out to universities investigated in the report. Cranfield University said they adhere to all current UK government guidance and regulation on collaborations with international institutions. The University of Leicester said they are proud of the impact and benefits that their work with China brings to both countries and say they take a joint approach to governance. And the University of Nottingham said they have never sought to conceal the role of the CCP in their China-based campus. They said their joint venture agreement ensures Nottingham University oversees all academic matters, while their Chinese partners focus on administration such as student accommodation and catering. Other universities did not respond in time for broadcast. The executive director of the China Strategic Risks Institute, Andrew Ye, said the report shows how far the CCP has influenced British universities. He said, "The academic freedoms of students and staff at all UK university institutions, whether at home or abroad, must be upheld. UK-China joint educational institutes are no exception to this." And the author of the report, Tao Yang, said the report seeks to shed light on the malign influence of the Chinese Communist Party that threatens to undermine the collaborations. He said, UK universities must cease turning a blind eye to this matter and act responsibly to protect students and academics, including those at their China operations. The report strongly recommends the UK government should amend rather than drop the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act to protect academic freedoms against threats by authoritarian states. It also calls for immediate assessments of governance structures at the UK-China JEIs, with a focus on protecting freedom of speech and preventing discrimination as per UK law. And it recommends a policy to protect whistleblowers, to minimize the risks they could face should they want to speak up against authoritarian practices at the JEIs. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
When we come back, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is appearing in court today. He's pleading not guilty to taking bribes and illegal campaign contributions.
The world's most fascinating birds captured by the world's most talented shutterbugs. That and more after the break.
Sama atau هذا الشواذ راح كثير رعب وطبعا هلا يعني أنا بحس بالرعب الكبير بدنا بس نعيش بأمان.
Conflict is raging across the world and millions of children's lives are being devastated by war, hunger, disease, and poverty. We urgently need your help to reach children in crisis. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We need 1,000 new monthly donors this month to help children in crisis around the world and right here at home. You can help us provide food, essentials, and life-saving medical care to children in the most need.
حريتنا يعني بدنا نعيش زي كل الأطفال بدنا نعيش بحرية وأمان.
In the darkest times, children suffer the most. You can help by calling right now and giving just $10 a month. All we need are 1,000 monthly donors. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
وعيت عن هاي الدنيا القصف والنزوح والخيمة. أتمنى نعاود على بلادنا. شايف لك إنه هذا مستحيل.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Show them they're not alone. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
The Kindness is Cool Video Awards are back for their second year. Record and nominate acts of kindness, both big and small, from individuals, families, and communities. Submit your videos on ganjingworld.com with the hashtag KindnessIsCool. Win a $10,000 grand prize and be featured on a New York Times Square billboard. Visit ganjingworld.com and start sharing today. Kindness is cool.
Welcome back to Newsroom. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is facing serious federal charges. They're related to bribery and campaign finance violations. NTD's Jason Perry is live outside the courthouse with the latest details. Jason, tell us what's new.
I'm here right outside of the federal courthouse in Manhattan, where New York City Mayor Eric Adams has pleaded not guilty to the charges brought against him. He's currently being charged with bribery, fraud, and illegally soliciting campaign contributions from a foreign national. Federal prosecutors have accused him of funneling money from Turkish sources in his 2021 mayoral campaign and for pressuring city officials to allow Turkey's new consulate to open, even though it would have failed a fire inspection. The charges date back to 2014 when Adams was Brooklyn Borough president. Adams' lawyer, Alex Spiro, said this after leaving the courthouse.
This case isn't even a real case. This is the airline upgrade corruption case. The third thing we said is that we demand that they bring exculpatory information and the discovery to court on Wednesday. As you know from looking at the indictment and from what happened in court, there are no emails, text messages, or any corroboration whatsoever that the mayor knew about anything having to do with these campaign donations. The entire body of evidence is one staffer that says there was a conversation. What you have not learned is that that staffer has lied, and the government is in possession of that lie.
Adams is the first of 110 New York City mayors to face criminal charges while in office. And Adams said he plans to continue his duties as mayor of New York City. However, if he's found guilty, he could face decades in prison. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said she's reviewing her options and obligations, but she stopped short of calling for Adams to resign. Adams' lawyer said he plans to file a motion to dismiss the charges next week. Back to you in the studio.
Helene made landfall in Florida's Big Bend region Thursday night, and this has left millions without power and resulting in several fatalities.
That's right. Now downgraded to a tropical storm, it's moving north across Georgia, and it's bringing with it dangerous winds and heavy rainfall. NTD's Christina Corona has the latest.
At 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Helene was located 3 miles southwest of Bryson City, North Carolina, with sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. It made landfall in Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 4 storm late last night. Emergency services are now trying to rescue anyone trapped by rapidly rising waters. Governor Ron DeSantis and officials gave an update on the storm.
We've had thousands of missions successfully completed in the overnight hours throughout the state, and all the calls that any state officials responded to last night, we were able to find the person or people and pets and bring them to safety.
At dawn, the storm-weary region revealed overturned boats, flattened homes, and a landscape submerged in several feet of floodwater. A storm surge warning remains in effect along Florida's west coast from Indian Pass to Tampa Bay. Surges are expected to reach up to 10 feet. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper also provided an update on Tropical Storm Helene.
Priority now is saving lives. Helene is causing life-threatening flash flooding, numerous landslides, and downed trees, causing power outages. Flooding will continue through the weekend in some areas and may even occur in areas that don't typically flood.
The storm has reportedly caused at least 22 deaths across the southeast, including 11 in Georgia.
We know that one of those was a first responder.
When we ask people to stay off the roads and be patient, it's because we are trying to get to people. It is a very dangerous environment, and one of our finest has lost his life trying to save others.
Approximately 4 million people in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia are currently without power. There are concerns the outages could persist for weeks. Forecasters predict that Helene will shift northwest and slow down over the Tennessee Valley later today and into Saturday. Christina Corona, NTD News.
The U.S. Coast Guard wraps up its hearing into OceanGate's Titan submersible. Investigators have been examining what led to the loss of the vessel, which tragically imploded last year. NTD's David Lamb reports.
2 weeks of testimony around what happened when the Titan submersible imploded have just concluded. 5 people died in the June 2023 incident, including the CEO of OceanGate, the company that built and operated it. Witnesses testified that the company put profits over safety and ignored warning signs before the disaster. They said the sub did not get proper certification and that the tragedy could have been prevented. The late CEO said the sub was developed with the help of NASA, but during the hearing, an engineer said NASA had little involvement.
We did not. The COVID pandemic occurred and we weren't able to accomplish any of the fabrication. We provided remote consultation throughout the build of their 1/3 scale article, but we did not do any manufacturing or testing of their cylinders.
Another witness said the CEO, Stockton Rush, and crew were passionate explorers who had assessed risks involved in the dive, that their goal was to allow more people to experience the deep sea. The sub was heading to view the wreckage of the sunken Titanic. The vessel's lightweight carbon fiber hull and its structure were discussed in length during the hearings. The Coast Guard's investigation is tasked with determining why it imploded. People on board the Titan paid $250,000 each to join the voyage. The remains of the Titan were found near the Titanic. David Lamb, NTD News.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg will be deposed in a lawsuit accusing the company of copyright infringement. Authors including comedian Sarah Silverman, writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee all claim that Meta illegally downloaded their works to train its artificial intelligence technology. District Judge Thomas Hickson ruled that there is sufficient evidence that Zuckerberg is the principal decision maker for the company's AI platforms. Meta had argued that the tech titan doesn't have unique knowledge of the company's AI operations, and it also added that the same information could be obtained from depositions from other employees. The authors accused the company of illegally downloading their books and then using them without consent to train its AI platforms. Other AI chatbot developers, including Anthropic, Microsoft, and OpenAI, face similar lawsuits.
The universities of Wisconsin's Board of Regents voted unanimously today to fire a communications professor. He was seeking to keep his tenure as chancellor of one of the campuses after being dismissed for making adult films. Joe Gao said that he should be allowed to keep a teaching position on campus. University attorneys said he was unethical and violated terms of his employment contract. He damaged the reputation of the university and interfered with its mission. The regents met in a closed session before voting in public to fire Gao. There was no discussion in the open session before the board voted. Gao has been on paid leave from his backup faculty position since he was fired as chancellor in 2023. This was shortly after university leaders became aware of the videos. Gao said that he plans to file a lawsuit against the university and accuse the regents of stifling his free speech rights.
Academy Award-winning actress Maggie Smith has died today. Very sad news. The Downton Abbey star was 89 years old.
We take a look at the actors, writers, and fans who adored her. Smith earned an Oscar and the British Academy Award for her role in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie in 1969.
And the actress won the hearts of fans in the 21st century as the Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey and as Professor Minerva McGonagall in the Harry Potter film series.
Smith's sons Chris Larkin and Toby Stevens said Smith passed away in a London hospital.
Smith was frequently considered one of the preeminent British actresses of a generation that included other greats such as Vanessa Redgrave and Judi Dench.
She always gets the line absolutely right. And that is, as you can imagine, very, very rewarding to write for, because you're putting a dart into the hands of someone who'll hit the bullseye every time.
The best intended of giving shade both on screen and off is Maggie Smith. Notorious MAGGIE, you know me.
She makes you want to be better than you are, really, because when you're up close and acting with her, she's the greatest actor I've ever worked with, unquestionably. It's phenomenal, her armory.
Smith's other accolades include an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the 1978 comedy California Suite.
The actress was honored as a dame in 1990 after she was knighted by Queen Elizabeth. California has passed new laws to protect child influencers' earnings. Governor Gavin Newsom signed 2 bills into law yesterday. One law requires content creators featuring children to save earnings in trusts for them. Another expands protections to minors in monetized online content. Pop star Demi Lovato joined Newsom at the signing event. Newsom said that exploitation of young influencers ends with the legislation. Actors union SAG-AFTRA praised the laws, calling for stronger protections for all young performers. More trouble at Boeing. The National Transportation Safety Board has issued an urgent safety warning for some Boeing 737s. The issue involves a critical flight control that could possibly jam and fail. The crew of a United Airlines 737 flight reported an incident earlier this year. Pilots said that the pedals that control the rudder got stuck in the neutral position when they were landing. The NTSB is recommending that Boeing warn pilots and come up with an alternative solution. The Federal Aviation Administration says United is the only U.S. airline with 737s using this particular component in question. The agency said the components are no longer being used.
Talks between the International Longshoresmen Association and the United States Maritime Alliance Employer Group appear to now be at an impasse. Wages remain a sticking point ahead of a September 30th deadline to reach a new contract. The Longshoresmen Union represents 45,000 port workers on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. If its members walk off the job, it would be the union's first coast-wide strike since 1977. The affected ports process more than half of U.S. ocean trade. A widespread work stoppage would delay goods across a broad range of industries. Costco says that it is taking steps to prepare for these possible strikes. The retailer's CEO said contingency plans include pre-shipping for holiday goods and preparing to use different ports. Moving on, winged wonders, fantastical flying friends, whatever you want to call them, birds are truly amazing and beautiful and are fan favorite fodder for some of the world's most talented photographers. Let's take a look.
Take a look at breathtaking images from around the world that make up the cream of the crop of the 2024 Bird Photographer of the Year competition. More than 23,000 images from photogs of all ages were submitted for consideration across multiple categories, including bird behavior, birds in flight, comedy, black and white, and more. All are spectacular in their own right, but standouts include this haunting moonlight silhouette moment from South Africa, this silly slip-sliding penguin in Antarctica, and this bird's topsy-turvy tree view in Spain, which took top honors in the Young Photog category for an artist just 14 years of age. But the overall winning prize went to this solemn image of more than 4,000 birds killed after collisions with windows or reflective surfaces in Toronto. It highlights a very real threat these fascinating flying creatures face in the modern world. The competition is in its 9th edition and celebrates not only the talents of these artists and the beauty of birds, but champions the cause of conservation to protect these winged wonders.
Absolutely stunning photos there.
Amazing.
Beautiful. Coming up, still sticking to the theme of the animal kingdom, a zoo in Poland is looking for name ideas for a baby southern poodoo.
And this deer is the second smallest species in the world. That and more after this break.
The 7th NTD International Piano Competition will take place at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Pianists from around the world will come together to revive the great piano masterpieces. Join us on this uplifting journey. The semifinals, finals, and the winner's concert will be open to audiences and live streamed from October 17th to the 19th. Get tickets now at 212-501-3330.
Where nature embraces you and fills you with invigorating joy. Treasuring every little moment as these romantic memories gather up to complete our blissful memories together. Mokpo.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
British twins are looking to enter the record books with the world's largest pumpkin. The Hampshire duo has been growing pumpkins for nearly 50 years, but this year's crop, will it see them crowned?
Nuts, isn't it? Nuts. It's nuts, yeah. We're trying to grow the biggest fruit to sit on this planet. What's not cool about that? It's all a bit nerve-wracking, really. It's years of work, loads of hours, lots of money. My missus would tell you. It's a Caribbean holiday here.
The brothers have 4 pumpkins growing for this challenge. They say their produce is increasing by an average of 30 kilograms. That's more than 60 pounds a day. Each pumpkin is expected to reach over 3,000 pounds, the weight of a small car. The world record right now is 2,749 pounds. So good luck to Ian and Stuart, who are on track to break that record. And another new arrival, a zoo in Poland is seeking suggestions to name a female baby southern poodoo after its birth 2 months ago. It's the second smallest deer species in the world. The deer species originate from forests in Chile and Argentina. An adult poodoo measures up to about 18 inches tall and weighs up to 33 pounds. Zookeepers are asking the public to suggest names for their new arrival on Facebook. The names should start with a P, like other animals born this year. The zoo's marketing head said the birth took its poodoo population to now 4. This is a very significant birth because this species is also endangered. She also said it is a very secretive creature, so spotting it can feel like a miracle even in a zoo.
Can't start your day without a cup of coffee? Well, you can celebrate this Sunday. September 29th is National Coffee Day for all you coffee lovers out there. An assistant director for the Center for Coffee Research and Education explains what makes the best cup scientifically.
Number one, a good coffee. Good water. Water is 90% of your coffee is water, so you need to have the right water for your coffee, the right grind size for the specific method that you're going to use, and the right roast profile for your coffee. And all those things combined make the best cup of coffee.
He compares coffee tasting to wine tasting. It can make a big difference where your coffee is cultivated and if the process it goes through before reaching the supermarket shelf is different. He says there are more than 100 varieties of coffee being cultivated right now, and the kind of coffee you choose can matter a lot more than how you roast it. Whether you like a light roast or a dark roast, this could all make a big difference. So if you're looking to celebrate your favorite pick-me-up, a number of chains across the country are offering free coffee this Sunday. Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme, Peet's Coffee, The Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, and La Madeleine are all promoting special deals for National Coffee Day.
Coming up, home insurance premiums surging in the past couple of years. Will costs ever come down? That and more after the break.
Come to the Mathis Design Studio, the premier destination for designer furniture. See the latest trends from top brands with heirloom quality pieces for every room in your house. Whether you're redecorating a single room or furnishing an entire home, we have the styles you'll love. Plus enjoy fast, complimentary delivery. Visit us now for exclusive discounts and let us help make your dream home a reality for less than you ever imagined at the Mathis Design Studio.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G.
And I'm Carrie Dunst.
Vice President Kamala Harris is visiting the southern border today in Arizona.
After meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy this morning, former President Trump is in Michigan holding a town hall event in Warren, Michigan.
The Justice Department announcing criminal charges against 3 Iranian operatives. It's related to the hack of former President Trump's 2024 campaign.
The top diplomats from the U.S. and China meet today in New York City. This comes amid clashes in policy and ideology between the two countries, which were visible at the UN General Assembly this week. Jack Bradley reports.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams appears in court today, pleading not guilty to charges that he accepted bribes and illegal campaign contributions.
Cooling price pressures revealed in the latest PCE index that moves the Fed closer to its inflation target and Americans closer to another rate cut.
Home insurance premiums surging in the past couple of years. Will the costs ever come down?
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida's Big Bend region Thursday night. This has left millions without power and has resulted in several fatalities already.
Now downgraded to a tropical storm, it is moving north across Georgia, and it's bringing with it dangerous winds and heavy rainfall. NTD's Christina Corona has the latest.
At 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Helene was located 3 miles southwest of Bryson City, North Carolina, with sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. It made landfall in Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 4 storm late last night. Emergency services are now trying to rescue anyone trapped by rapidly rising waters. Governor Ron DeSantis and officials gave an update on the storm.
We've had thousands of missions successfully completed in the overnight hours throughout the state, and all the calls that any state officials responded to last night, we were able to find the person or people and pets and bring them to safety.
At dawn, the storm-weary region revealed overturned boats, flattened homes, and a landscape submerged in several feet of floodwater. A storm surge warning remains in effect along Florida's west coast from Indian Pass to Tampa Bay. Surges are expected to reach up to 10 feet. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper also provided an update on Tropical Storm Helene.
The priority now is saving lives. Helene is causing life-threatening flash flooding, numerous landslides, and downed trees causing power outages. Flooding will continue through the weekend in some areas and may even occur in areas that don't typically flood.
The storm has reportedly caused at least 22 deaths across the southeast, including 11 in Georgia.
We know that one of those was a first responder. When we ask people to stay off the roads and be patient, it's because we are trying to get to people. It is a very dangerous environment, and one of our finest has lost his life trying to save others.
Approximately 4 million people in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia are currently without power. There are concerns the outages could persist for weeks. Forecasters predict that Helene will shift northwest and slow down over the Tennessee Valley later today and into Saturday. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Moving on to news from the campaign trail, Vice President Kamala Harris will be making her first trip to the U.S.-Mexico border. This is the first time she's going to do so since becoming the Democratic nominee.
That's right. She'll be making her case on an issue that polls indicate is her most challenging. NTD's Jason Blair reports.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be speaking in the border town of Douglas, Arizona. According to a Harris Walz campaign aide, Harris will talk about her plan to address the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border, including calling for more resources for Border Patrol agents and propose new machines that can detect fentanyl. With illegal U.S.-Mexico border crossings being at record levels the past few years, Kamala Harris's Republican counterpart had some things to say ahead of Harris's trip.
She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? Our country's never been under siege like this.
Harris will also likely highlight how she pushed for immigration legislation that would reform federal immigration policy that failed Congress after Trump openly opposed it. Harris is scheduled to speak around 7:45 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Moving on now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is speaking live from New York City.
That's right. Blinken will discuss U.S. efforts to promote peace and prosperity worldwide. We'll now go to the live event.
Drugs and precursor chemicals into the United States.
improving communications between our militaries, discussing the risks of artificial intelligence. I emphasized the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and raised concerns about the PRC's dangerous and destabilizing actions in the South China Sea. I also underscored our strong concern with China's support for Russia's defense industrial base, which fuels Russia's war machine and perpetuates a war that China purports to want to see ended. Over the course of the week, we also came together with our partners to address many other crucial challenges facing the globe. We worked toward a cessation of hostilities, unrestricted humanitarian access, and civilian governance in Sudan. We worked to garner additional resources and support for the multinational security support mission in Haiti. We coordinated steps to increase international pressure on the Maduro regime in Venezuela to stop its widespread repression of the Venezuelan people, to respect their will and their votes, as expressed at the ballot box. These tests, and so many more, underscore the magnitude of the challenges facing the globe, but also the imperative of diplomacy. We don't have the luxury of pulling back. In the coming hours, and for every remaining day of this administration, we'll remain intensely focused on addressing these challenges as we work to make a better world. Thank you. Andrea.
Mr. Secretary, a senior Israeli official just briefed the press on today's operation and why they are still going into Lebanon. The senior official said that their intel told them that there was a plan to encircle Israel and eliminate Israel by 2040, that Sinwar on October 7th jumped the gun, that they have been defending themselves ever since, that they feel that Nasrallah was the key, the linchpin to all of this, and Hezbollah, that after a year they felt that they had to get people back in their homes, that they went after Nasrallah, and in today's strike were targeting him. Clearly, they don't know what they've achieved. They still feel that when in the military you have momentum, that you have to keep going, that they will be a lot farther along in their operation if it turns out that this was successful in their terms today, but that they still, he said, the official said, still have to keep going, and they are not ready to pause. From your conversations, what is your perspective about whether Israel continuing with this operation and not going in on the ground, which they said is not preferable, but if doing this in what they consider a targeted way is a legitimate response to what they see as an existential threat, or if there is an other alternative, a diplomatic alternative?
Andrea, I will let Israel speak to their operations and their objectives. It's not my place.
The American objectives and the American policy.
Look, we and many others have been clear about what we see to be the best path forward. And the objective that Israel has in the first instance in Lebanon is an important and legitimate one. It's creating an environment that's secure enough to enable people to return home, because remember what happened starting October 8th. Hezbollah started lobbing rockets and missiles into Israel, trying to create another front in the war. And Israel, of course, had to respond to that. And in the process, tens of thousands of people had to evacuate their homes in northern Israel. Villages and homes were destroyed, southern Lebanon. And so we have large populations, both in Israel and in Lebanon, who've been forced from their homes. And it is a legitimate and important objective for Israel to, again, create an environment in which people can get back to their homes. The question is, what's the best way to do that? What is the most effective, sustainable way to do that? We believe, many other countries who joined us in putting out a call for a ceasefire for 21 days believe that the best way to do that is through diplomacy, through a ceasefire, and then reaching an agreement that pulls back forces from the border and gives people the confidence that they can go back to their houses, that the kids can go back to school. So we believe that's the best path forward. And the Israelis put out a statement earlier today sharing that they share the aims of the call that we put out, again, with the G7, with the EU, with key Arab partners. So the question is not, does Israel have a right to defend itself against terrorism? Of course it does. The question is not, does Israel have a right to deal with existential threats to its security and enemies across its borders with the avowed intent to destroy Israel? Of course it does. But the question is, what is the best way to achieve its objectives, to reach enduring security? And in this instance, with regard to Lebanon, what's the best way to achieve the stated objective of creating an environment in northern Israel that gives people confidence to return to their homes? As I said, we believe the diplomatic course is the best one.
For the next question, Hibba Nasser with a shark.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I want to ask the question again. Since October 7, you've been saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. And you've been stating all the time that they have the right to defend themselves against Hezbollah and Iranian proxies in the Middle East. So my question, now you repeated how it does that matter. Can you clarify whether this Israeli approach to targeting Hezbollah's leadership falls under self-defense, and what's the U.S. administration clear position on the policy of targeted assassination? And if I may, please, one second question. You've emphasized for calm along the northern borders, and you have been working towards this goal for the past 11 months. Now, as we edge closer to a broader conflict, could you specify what do you mean by calm? Are you referring to a return to the pre-October 7 status quo, implying a cessation of hostilities, or the full implementation of Resolution 1701? Because it does matter for the Lebanese and for the Israeli to understand what are you proposing. And just one final question. We are 2 weeks away from October 7, Mr. Secretary. What could you have done differently that might have changed the current situation? Thank you.
I appreciate that you managed to get in several questions. So first, on the events of the last hours, we are still gathering information, making sure that we fully understand what happened, what the intent was, and until we have that information, I can't address in detail our response to it. So we'll continue to work on that in the hours ahead. With regard to a broader conflict, we've said very clearly, you're right, ever since October 7th, that one of our objectives, besides making sure that Israel does what it needs to do to make sure that October 7th never happens again, besides doing everything we can to try to make sure that people who are caught in this horrible crossfire of Hamas's making and who are suffering so terribly, women, men, children in Gaza, that they get the protection that they need and the assistance they need. Besides that, our objective has been to try to prevent the war from spreading as well as escalating. And on multiple occasions since October 7th, we seem to be on the verge of just that happening, including in the days immediately following October 7th, and then again on several other occasions, most notably in April, and even more recently than that. And each and every time, the combination of American deterrence and American diplomacy managed to prevent a wider war. We're intensely focused on doing exactly that now, along with many other countries, because in our judgment, the judgment of so many others, it's in no one's interest to have a wider conflict. And so we're working in every possible way to prevent that from happening. Now, in terms of where we think this should go, no, going back simply to October 6th in terms of the border between Lebanon and Israel is not sufficient, because it's not simply a matter of having a ceasefire, that is, Hezbollah firing into Israel, Israel responding in a tit-for-tat. What's necessary is to create the conditions, including moving forces back, such that people in both northern Israel and southern Lebanon have the confidence to return home. It would be important, finally, to make 1701 real, not simply a piece of paper that's never been effectively implemented. And I remind as well that as part of Israel leaving Lebanon in 2000, after it had been bogged down there for 15 years, as part of that, and through 1701, the understanding was that any of the armed militia would put down their weapons. The state should have a monopoly on the use of force. Hezbollah never did that. And it's presented an ongoing threat to Israel ever since, again, with the avowed goal of eradicating it. So in this instance, the most important thing to do, again, if the objective is to just get people home, get kids back to school in Israel and in Lebanon, most important thing to do through diplomacy is to try first to stop firing in both directions, and then to use the time that we would have in such a ceasefire to see if we can reach a broader diplomatic agreement on this. I think it would have to proceed in phases, but we have to have conditions on the ground such that people know with confidence that they can be safe in their own homes. And finally, as we come to October 7th and the anniversary of that horror, our focus is not thinking about the past. Our focus is intensely on the here and now and the efforts that we continue to make to get a ceasefire that brings the hostages home, that results in a surge of humanitarian assistance to the people in Gaza who desperately need it, and that opens the prospects for enduring peace and stability. That's where our focus is. That's where it's going to remain.
Olivia Gazis with CBS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I also have a multi-parter, so with your indulgence. Mediators were in the thick of negotiations in July when Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran. Now there's the unconfirmed possibility that Hassan Nasrallah has been targeted, possibly killed. Just days after the U.S., of course, put forward its ceasefire proposal with a coalition of countries. How can the U.S. continue to put its weight and credibility behind these proposals when it can make no assurances that its mediators won't be targeted and won't be killed? To put it bluntly, Mr. Secretary, are the ceasefire proposals that you had been efforting in Gaza and in the north now dead? On Iran, to date, Tehran seems to have been deterred through, as you mentioned, U.S. efforts from directly retaliating against Israel and other interests, including after the assassination of Haniyeh, including after the pager operation in Lebanon. Is the U.S. willing to continue its efforts to deter Iran, especially as some of these operations that the Israelis are engaging in come with little advance notice, if any? And on Ukraine, earlier this month, you and Foreign Secretary Lamy stood in Kyiv and said that you would continue deliberations about long-range weapons capabilities in Russia over the course of the UN General Assembly, engaging with Western allies. The Germans came out this week publicly to voice their opposition to that capability. Is there a clear answer from the U.S. To this request from the Ukrainians? And if not, how much longer do you expect them to wait for a clear answer? Thank you.
Thanks. Olivia, with regard to the ceasefires, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, I don't think the question is one about individuals. The question is one about interests and what is in the interests of the respective parties and getting them to act on those interests. I mentioned a moment ago, in the case of Gaza, the interests of all concerned really should go to bringing this ceasefire agreement across the finish line that we've been working to do now for the last several weeks. It's manifestly in the interest of Israel, which in Gaza has accomplished the military objectives that it's set out at horrifically high cost for civilians who were caught in the crossfire that Hamas created. But those military objectives have been achieved. And so getting the hostages home, putting Gaza on a better path, I believe is in their interests. It's manifestly in the interests of people in Gaza who would get immediate relief from the war, immediate relief in terms of a surge of humanitarian assistance, and a commitment from the international community to help them rebuild their lives. And it should be in the interests of Hamas if, as it says, it represents the interests of those Palestinians in Gaza, because the ceasefire would advance those interests. So, irrespective of the individuals involved, the interests are clear, and whoever the individuals are, they'll have to make determinations and decide. Similarly, when it comes to Lebanon, same thing. It's clearly in the interests of the Lebanese people to have peace, to have security, to have stability, to not live under threat. And certainly in their interest to avoid a wider war where inevitably the biggest victim of such a war, those who would suffer the most, are the Lebanese people. And so those who purport to represent their interests and have their well-being at heart should find a way to act on those interests, irrespective of the individuals involved. And this is what so many of us are working to put forward. We've been very clear in not just what we've said, but also in what we've done, including the deployment of significant assets in the region, that we will do our part to deter further conflict, to deter escalation, to deter a widening war. And there are two sides to that coin. One, to avoiding that wider war. One is this deterrence, and we are committed to it. But the other is diplomacy. And as I mentioned before, on several occasions since October 7th, we've been on what we judge to be the brink of that wider war, and through a combination of deterrence and diplomacy, we've managed to prevent it. That's what we're focused on now, and all parties in the region, I think including Iran, know that and can see that. And then finally, with regard to Ukraine, I wasn't there because I was here in New York representing the President and the administration. So while I got a chance to see President Zelenskyy with President Biden briefly when they were both in New York, the meeting that took place yesterday was one that I wasn't part of. And I can tell you, though, from the readout that I got from the meeting, that it was not only very good and very positive, but among other things, it resulted in, or we announced at the same time, the provision of significantly more assistance to the Ukrainians, notably security and military assistance, more than $8 billion worth, that will carry us through the end of this administration. In the conversation between the President, President Biden, and President Zelenskyy, the Ukrainians presented their plan for victory, and I'll let them speak to the details of that, including what's necessary in their judgment to achieve it. And we are studying it very carefully, and that includes what, if any, additional things we or other partners of Ukraine would be called on to do in order to help them achieve that success. But the President's been very clear that he's committed to Ukraine's success. He's committed to making sure that they have what they need to effectively defend themselves as well. I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. Every step along the way, we've adapted and adjusted to those needs, and I'm convinced we'll continue to do so.
And for the final question, Mark Menier with South China Morning Post.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much. Brazil and China, a couple of hours ago, pushed further on this idea of sort of mediating with a peace plan. Can I get your reaction to that? Is it a distraction? Is there a useful part of that, particularly in light of President Zelenskyy's opposition to it? Related to that, Ambassador Nick Burns yesterday, I believe, basically signaled that there could be more sanctions on China related to their dual-use assistance to Russia. Given that at this point we seem to have about 300 sanctions by some count against China, and there's not too much evidence that they have managed to change China's behavior, what's the effectiveness of putting more sanctions on that? Is there a different approach here with allies, perhaps, that can be done to change China's behavior? And finally, any thoughts on a Xi Jinping and President Biden meeting, call, something, perhaps on the sidelines of APEC? Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So on the peace proposals, peace plans, from our perspective, any proposal, any plan that's grounded clearly in the principles of the United Nations Charter, notably territorial integrity, sovereignty, independence, is something that's worth looking at. So I was very clear at the Security Council couple of days ago about what we and most other countries see as the basis for a just and lasting peace. A peace in which the aggressor gets everything that it's sought and the victim does not have its rights upheld is not a recipe for a lasting peace, and certainly not a just one. But a peace that's grounded in the Charter, that upholds its principles, that is. And so any proposal that's out there, we would judge and evaluate on that basis. On the question of sanctions, look, we've been very clear, and we've taken action accordingly already on our concerns about the provision of assistance by Chinese companies to Russia, and notably to help it build up its defense industrial base. Roughly 70% of the machine tools that Russia's importing coming from China, Hong Kong, 90% of the microelectronics from China, Hong Kong. And this is materially helping the Russians produce the missiles, the rockets, the armored vehicles, the munitions that they need to perpetuate the war, to continue their aggression. So when Beijing says that on the one hand that it wants peace, it wants to see an end to the conflict, but on the other hand is allowing its companies to take actions that are actually helping Putin continue the aggression, that doesn't add up. We've taken a number of steps already. I think what you're hearing again this week is not just from us, but from many other countries, a deep concern about this. And you heard that as well at the Security Council. So I'm not going to preview any actions we may be taking in the future, but it's also, I think, important to note that other countries are not only concerned about this, they're acting on it and will continue to act on it. And I would hope that that message is received loud and clear, and that actions follow from any actions that we and others take. Our intent is not to decouple Russia from China. Their relationship is their business. But insofar as that relationship involves providing Russia what it needs to continue this war, that's a problem. And it's a problem for us, and it's a problem for many other countries, notably in Europe, because right now, Russia presents the gravest threat, not just to Ukrainian security, but to European security since the end of the Cold War. With regard to President Biden and President Xi, I've got nothing to share in terms of any schedules, but I can tell you this: when Foreign Minister Wang and I met just a couple of hours ago, we discussed a number of things, and we talked about the work that we're doing to implement the agreements that were reached between the two presidents at Woodside, outside of San Francisco, at the end of last year, including the military-to-military relationship and communications, the flow of curbing the flow of synthetic drugs, the responsible use of AI, et cetera. We also talked about a number of areas where we have real differences, and I alluded to some of those a few moments ago. But we also agreed on the importance of the leaders communicating. And so I fully anticipate that we'll see that in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That was U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken coming out of his one-on-one with his counterpart from Beijing on the sidelines of the UN. He spoke on a variety of things, specifically, though, our differences and looking to partner on a cessation of hostilities from everything from the Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, and specifically China's support of Russia's war machine. That's right. A lot of talk there, Carrie, about national security and these international tensions right now. A lot of questions from reporters as well about the wars in the Middle East right now. A lot of talk about territorial integrity, importance of leaders communicating, as we heard Blinken emphasize there at the end. All right, moving on now to some campaign news. As Vice President Harris is traveling to the border, former President Trump is campaigning today across the battleground state of Michigan. Joining us now live is NTD's Iris Tao. She's at the site of Trump's town hall tonight in Warren, Michigan. Iris, good to see you again. What are we going to hear from the former president today?
Good afternoon to both of you. So tonight at around 6 p.m. Eastern time, former President Trump will take the stage right here behind us in Warren, Michigan, to do a town hall along with Senator Marsha Blackburn. And the focus of the topic will be about the auto industry in here. And we know that Senator Blackburn has been an outspoken critic of communist China, especially its unfair trade practices. So we do expect that to be a main theme today as well. Meanwhile, earlier today, Trump spoke in another area of Michigan and talking about inflation, the economy, but mainly also using that opportunity to criticize Vice President Kamala Harris's trip to the border today by highlighting new numbers released today by the ICE2 Representative Gonzalez, showing that over 13,000 illegal immigrants currently living in the United States were convicted of homicide. And those numbers also show that there were, as of July, there were over 660,000 non-citizens with criminal records in the U.S. And here's Trump's reaction to those numbers. Watch.
According to this brand new data, never seen before, over 13,099 convicted murderers have crossed the border and are free to roam and kill in our country. These are convicted murderers. These are people that were in jail. Now, I've been talking about this for 3 years.
Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is expected to go on the offensive today during her border trip by criticizing Trump over urging Republicans to block a bipartisan Senate deal and also touting her own record as the Attorney General and then Senator of California, a border state. And so we do expect both of them to talk more about this today, especially when Trump takes the stage right behind us. Meanwhile, another focus today at this town hall will be about Trump's tariff policies. We know that he's proposed imposing heavier tariffs on Chinese cars to protect American industries and workers. But Vice President Harris's campaign released a new campaign ad right before Trump's visit to Michigan today, accusing him of making empty promises to workers. Watch.
If I'm elected, you won't lose one plant. You'll have plants coming into this country. You're going to have jobs again.
The news today couldn't have come at a worse time. Just weeks now until Christmas, and General Motors has now revealed it will lay off workers in Ohio, Michigan, and Maryland. Thousands of jobs.
Vice President Harris is also vowing to bring back auto jobs to the U.S. as both of them are trying to appeal to the industrial bases, especially here in battleground states like Michigan. Meanwhile, also earlier today, Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at Trump Tower just one day after Zelenskyy met with Harris and President Biden at the White House. And Trump said before the meeting that he has a good relationship with both Ukrainian President Zelenskyy as well as Russian leader Putin, and that he wants to end the war with a good deal for both sides. Here's what he said. Watch.
We're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled and get it worked out. It has to end at some point. It has to end. He's gone through hell. This country has gone through hell like few countries have ever, like it's happened anywhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's a terrible situation.
And after the meeting, Trump said in an interview with Fox News that he learned a lot and then both of them wanted to see this end and that they both want to see a fair deal made. But when asked about what kind of fair deal he's seeking, Trump said it's too early to say that and that he has his own ideas and a president, which is Zelenskyy, definitely has his own ideas. So tonight we do expect Trump to both talk about this latest conversation he just had with the Ukrainian president today, as well as more response to Vice President Harris's latest border trip. And of course, with the auto-heavy focus here, we will hear more about jobs and tariffs and protecting American workers as well. Back to you.
All right, looks like it's getting packed there. Thank you, Iris, for that report. Coming up, home insurance premiums surging in the past couple of years, but will these costs ever come down?
Getting the highly coveted Michelin star rating for your restaurant can bring more fame and more customers, but that distinction can be a double-edged sword. We'll tell you how, that and more after the break.
At NativePath, we're driven to improve the lives of people by providing highly effective supplements that solve common health problems and support optimal health. This is what being on the path is all about.
23 سال 16 سال عمري ما حفظ
اما داعش کردیان برانبر خشک و دایکان یزدی ما کاری که دور لهمو چم که دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت لعراق و سوریه بشه که دگرت و با حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
مریم بو او 7 روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم كراقوتينيز قريا بما متشكر بحر في ذا نبو باوان رحمنا
قدامنا سؤالان من خادران نزل باوان وستم بس نا ما نجو بس ناش بيجوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جيبر تي حملي زارود الدم واسسي وان همو جيبر
وحشیگریه که توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار زور گوره لما افرطانه کرده و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده که اما نه روزانه دست فروشیده
اليوم التوزيع كلنا نصيب.
Imagine being a child, you know, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
For today's Business Matters, we have Paul Graney in for Don Ma. What's the big news today, Paul?
Kerry, thank you. We'll get right into it. So, talks between the International Longshoremen's Association and a group representing employers appear to be at an impasse today. Wages remain a sticking point ahead of a September 30th, and it started next week, as a deadline to reach a new contract agreement. The Longshoremen's Union represents 45,000 port workers on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. If its members walk off the job, it will be the first union strike coast-wide since 1977. The affected ports process more than half of U.S. ocean trade. A widespread work stoppage would delay the delivery of goods across a broad range of industries. Costco is one employer that's saying it's taking steps to prepare for possible strikes. Its CEO said contingency plans include pre-shipping for holiday goods and preparing to use different ports. That's one. Another headache for Boeing. The National Transportation Safety Board has issued an urgent safety warning for some of Boeing's 737s. The issue involves a critical flight control that could possibly jam and fail. The crew of a United Airlines 737 flight reported an incident earlier this year, and pilots said the pedals that control the rudder got stuck in the neutral position when they were landing. The NTSB is recommending that Boeing warn pilots and come up with an alternative solution. Now, the FAA says United is the only U.S. airline with 737s using these components, and the agency said that the components are no longer being used. And some news on inflation. The PCE index rose 1 point last month. That puts the 12-month reading at 2.2%. That's the lowest since early 2021. But core PCE, that's the Federal Reserve's favorite inflation gauge, that's at 2.7%. 2% is the Fed's target. Now, you'll remember that the Fed cut interest rates this month for the first time since 2020. The Fed chairman said he doesn't want the jobs market to weaken anymore, so it cut rates to stimulate the economy. But one Fed governor said that the Fed's cut was too big because she's still worried about inflation. One price that is not coming down is insurance. I'm sure you felt it. Now, as Hurricane Helene moves across the United States, today we take a look at rising home insurance premiums. Here's the story.
Home insurance rates have been surging for the past 3 years. In 2021, the average was at $2,000 a year. Now it's at around $2,400.
A dramatic increase. I don't know if they're ever going to come down. We are certainly forecasting them to continue to climb through the next year.
Chris Schaefer is a senior editor at Insurify. He says rates are climbing because construction material costs surged coming out of COVID and because natural disasters are becoming bigger and more expensive. While premiums may continue rising, you can still save money.
Comparison shop. Different insurance agencies rate your own individual risk factors differently. And if you compare rates from several different insurers, you often can find a policy that is more affordable for you.
Schaefer says some insurers also offer discounts if your home has certain attributes, such as security systems, fire-resistant building materials, storm shutters, hail-proof roofs, and newer homes may qualify for discounts. Insurers have to know about these features to give you the reduced rate.
And now some international news. The European Union has fined Facebook owner Meta over $100 million. Now get this, the fine was for inadvertently storing some users' passwords without protection or encryption. The inquiry began 5 years ago after Meta notified Ireland's Data Protection Commission that it had stored some passwords in plain text. Meta publicly acknowledged the incident at the time. Meta spokesperson said the company immediately resolved the error after discovery. That was back in 2019. And don't worry, they said there's no evidence that the passwords were abused or accessed improperly. And Toyota is reporting a 7th straight month of decline in global production. Last month it dipped 11%. The carmaker is blaming Mother Nature, a certification scandal, and an output pause in the United States. Also in August, Toyota had to halt production at several factories when a powerful typhoon hit southern Japan. Before that, Toyota was in the midst of apologizing for cheating on certification tests. That's on top of a pause in output for 2 sports utility vehicles here in the United States. And powering down after 142 years, the UK's last coal-fired power station will close at the end of the month. Now, many of the employees will help in the decommissioning process, which is expected to take about 2 years. Government stats show the UK has been moving toward renewable energy, including wind and solar. And now the UK is not the first European nation to entirely phase out coal, but it is the first among G7 countries. And despite the founder being arrested and a mostly dissolved US team, Dun Global is still filling prescriptions for Americans. The company was based in Silicon Valley, but now it appears to be operating from China. Prosecutors claim Dun Global was an Adderall pill mill. Chinese native and founder Ruthie He is now under house arrest. She's been charged in an alleged multi-million-dollar drug scheme. After arrest, a U.S. employee posted on the company's Instagram account that its China management team had taken over, and the post was removed. In June, the company shared a post that said it disagreed with the charges here in the United States. And lawmakers in the House Intelligence Committee zeroing it in on one of the most popular shopping apps here in America. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has the report.
Congressmen, including the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, requested a briefing from the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission on Wednesday, following a New York Post report saying Temu's parent company is allegedly led by former officials from the Chinese Communist Party. Lawmakers said they are concerned about data on American users. Temu's parent company is called PDD Holdings, an online retailer based in China. It's also listed on the NASDAQ. The Post report said a dozen of the company's top leadership are former CCP officials. For example, one of its vice presidents is a former official from China's State Administration for Market Regulation. Another VP, a former official from the Shanghai Administration for Industry and Commerce. 2 legal directors were former judges in Shanghai. States have also sounded the alarm over Temu. Arkansas sued Temu and its Chinese parent company in June. The state's attorney general alleged that Temu is malware disguised as an e-commerce platform. The lawsuit said the app is designed to gain unfettered access to a user's phone by overriding data privacy settings. As for what kinds of data it collects, fingerprints, location data, text messages, contacts, camera access, and documents. The lawsuit accuses Temu of selling this data to third parties to make money. Temu denies the allegations, saying they are totally unfounded. Despite that, Temu remains in hot water. Congress is investigating the app over data security concerns, while the state of Montana banned both Temu and Chinese-owned TikTok from government devices, citing threats to user security. Last year, Apple suspended Temu from the Apple App Store for misrepresenting the type of user data it's capable of collecting. Apple later lifted the restriction. Google suspended parent company PDD's app in the same year because it contained malware.
And the ball that Los Angeles Dodgers Shohei Showtime Ohtani hit to reach the 50-50 club of Major League Baseball is going on the auction block. Collectibles marketplace Golden announced Wednesday that it has consigned the coveted ball. Bidding begins on Golden's website Friday, noon Eastern. It has the potential to be the most expensive baseball ball ever sold. Bidding starts at $500,000, but anyone can just buy the ball outright for $4.5 million if you have it aside. The Japanese sensation hit his historic 50th home run against the Miami Marlins last week. The player becomes a member of the 50-50 club after a single season of 50-plus home runs and 50-plus stolen bases. Quite the guy. Are you one of those people who can't start your day without a cup of coffee? Well, you can celebrate this Sunday. September 29th is National Coffee Day. An assistant director for the Center for Coffee Research and Education explains what makes the best cup. He compares coffee tasting to wine tasting and says it can make a big difference where your coffee is cultivated and the process it goes through before reaching the supermarket shelf. He also says there are more than 100 varieties of coffee being cultivated around the world right now, and the kind of coffee you choose can actually matter a lot more than how you roast it. That's whether you like a light roast or a dark roast. So if you're looking to celebrate your favorite pick-me-up, a number of chains across the country are offering free coffee this Sunday. Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme, Pete's Coffee, Coffee Bean, and Tea Leaf, and La Madeleine, all promoting special deals for National Coffee Day. Staying on food, receiving Michelin stars can be the ultimate prize for a restaurant. But that new fame can also bring a business some unexpected problems. NTD Sean Marshall has more.
Michelin stars are known for being awarded only to restaurants that offer outstanding cooking, something any restaurant owner would normally want. But there are also some negatives that come with the distinction. A study in the Strategic Management Journal found that more than 40% of restaurants that received Michelin star ratings between 2000 and 2014 closed by the end of 2019. The popularity and attention would often bring intensified bargaining problems with landlords, suppliers, and employees, along with heightened consumer expectations, all of which created new challenges for these Michelin-starred restaurants and ultimately made it more difficult for them to stay in business. Michelin says it may award a restaurant as many as 3 stars based on 5 criteria: the quality of ingredients, the harmony of flavors, the mastery of techniques, the personality of the chef as expressed through their cuisine, and consistency both across the entire menu and over time. Restaurants are graded continuously, which can increase the desire to keep impressing guests and obtain higher and higher quality ingredients, which can reduce profit margins. One Michelin star recipient who was interviewed in the study commented, "We have invested a lot of money into the place. You really need to, but it makes the value of the real estate go up, and landlords may react by bargaining harder for value in their subsequent negotiations with restaurants." Another interviewee commented that their cooks sought out even better ingredients after receiving a Michelin star, but the margins get worse when you are at the very high end of beer and food. But that's what they needed. He went on to say just maintaining the Michelin star was too expensive. At the time of this report, out of 408 graded restaurants in New York City, only 4 have the highest rating of 3 stars. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And some investment news to finish up. Silver could be reaching gold's status. The precious metal has climbed to its highest level in nearly 12 years. The price is up about 34% this year. It's actually outpacing gold, which is also performing well. Silver is considered a safe haven investment and a key industrial commodity. Unlike gold, the bulk of the demand for silver comes from the industrial sector. Right now, it's particularly popular in solar panel manufacturing. One expert believes silver's rally to continue because of consecutive interest rate cuts and China's continued stimulus. Spot gold also up yesterday and reached a record high earlier in the day, and it could keep climbing if there are more rate cuts, since lower rates boost the appeal of non-yielding gold. And very quickly on to the markets today. It was a mixed day down on Wall Street. We see here S&P 500 dropping about 0.1%. We see Dow Jones, though, up 0.33%. Now, it has hit an all-time high again today. In fact, all 3 markets have now a 3-week winning streak. NASDAQ today, though, closed a little lower for the week, 0.39% down. And with that, that's us.
Paul, you really got my attention with National Coffee Day this Sunday.
Absolutely.
How are you guys going to observe that day?
I don't know. I'm not really a coffee chain type of guy. I like to make it at home myself.
You know, I think I agree. I like to get myself some nice small shop, some mom and pop shop coffee beans, brew it myself. But I know you're a bit of a fiend for caffeine there, Carrie. What are you gonna do?
I don't know, but there'll definitely be at least 3 or 4 cups. We'll be toasting the day.
Yeah.
So thanks, Paul. Great to see you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Moving on, the Coast Guard is reaching the end of its 2-week hearing into a tragic loss. Investigators continue gathering testimony.